Hello and welcome to Portia, Raw and Real, the podcast that comes on after some conversations, all the Portias though that made us go, we need to have them stick around for just a little bit longer. One of those conversations, of course, was the discussion we had recently about different work ethics, different work strategies, and different generations in the workforce. And it was really fun because we are very clear that the younger generation, they've been getting a bad rap for too long. So we had some folks here to set the record straight, but also an HR pro, if you would, who had some really great perspectives that were really kind of maybe a little unconventional to what we've been told about how we should work as older folks. So let me introduce our guest today. We had Krishna Powell, who is an HR pro, 30 years of experience helping people learn how to show up as their best selves, if you would. And then there is Claire Ofotokun, an entrepreneur, a Gen-Zennial. Do you describe yourself as Gen Z, Gen X? Which one? No, you're definitely not Gen X. That's your mom and me.
No,
you're
Gen Z.
You're definitely Gen Z. Gotcha. And then we've got Tacorry Thomas, also Gen Z.
Yeah, I would say 25, wherever that falls in line.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. And an entrepreneur as well. Both college graduates, both went straight into your own lanes, essentially, right? So listen, I want to start with just something that we did touch on in the show, though, because I thought it was really interesting. The lessons that you two have learned from watching how your parents moved in the workforce, and how you both kind of walked away with a little different takeaway. Neither one of you is wrong or right, so to speak. It's just your observations, right? What did you learn from your parents about how hard we work?
Yeah, well, my parents...
And the payoff, or lack thereof, as you would put it.
Definitely not a lack thereof for my parents, I will say. My dad, he's from Nigeria. He came from a village, and he worked his way through the ranks of healthcare, and he is extremely passionate. And what I took away from him was that passion.
Yeah.
And I wanted to feel that passion for him, for that passion myself, similarly. Yeah. And his thoughts are, well, you know, I kind of have this lane that you can go, healthcare, that's the path that you should do, because I set it up. But I said, I saw your life, Dad, and you paved your own way, and that's what I want to do for myself. So he chose the more corporate route, and I think it was still really difficult for him as an immigrant. And for me, as someone who doesn't know anybody in entrepreneurship and as an artist, I think I'm also taking that away, but in a different sense. So I don't want to join the corporate ladders like he is. Yeah. I want to take that passion that he showed me.
Was he like, but I want you to? Or did he say, okay, all right, I'm not going to push it?
He's still a little iffy. He's still helping.
He's still maybe observing and waiting for you to say, okay, Dad.
Yeah, maybe. He's like, I don't see your Oscar or anything yet, so.
What kind of artist are you? Tell us more about the kind of, what is your artistic platform?
So.
Your medium, if you would.
I graduated with a degree in dance and film, and I was really passionate about dance, and then the pandemic came, and I was like, I don't think that's the path for me. I need to take something a little bit different. So I also picked up some skills in marketing as well. So that's what I was using as my business to make money, and photography. Okay. But my art that I'm really truly love is acting and modeling and just performance art in general.
Nice. Gotcha. Okay. And Tacorry, for you, you watched a very hardworking mother.
Absolutely.
Work all the hours, go in early, stay late.
Yeah.
How did that, what kind of impact did that have on your work ethic?
I realized my mom was growing up. Like I said, she had me at a pretty young age. She went through the job she had to do, seen her take 2 or 3 jobs.
Supporting 4 boys, I might add, right?
Yeah, supporting 4 boys, like as a superhero, as I must say. I seen her go through that journey of missing some late nights, missing some award ceremonies, missing some things, but to your point early on the show of being there for the important ones, knowing when to be there for some of the important ones.
Yeah.
So I took this going to take some sacrifice, like early on, because of some decisions that you make because you want a family, you know, because you want to support your kids. But then I seen her in her 30s and later half, like, start her own business that went extremely successful for her and allow her those time and the hours back with her family, because she was able to kind of work and save and invest, create a business, pour all of it into it, learn some of the skills she took from working in the workforce in terms of like getting right employees, making correct business decisions, all that stuff, apply it to our own business, then become really successful from it.
Yeah.
And that kind of put that grit in me. I think coming out of college to say, I can bet on myself early too and still make it happen.
Oh,
So
what a beautiful lesson that is, right? Because
Right.
we did not, and we watched our parents work very hard as well.
Exactly.
And I mean, 2-3 jobs, right? And my mother's case for sure. What does that say about how they saw sort of the end game for their parents as opposed to the journey? We did the journey. They saw, okay, that's how I wanted to go in the end, or a different version of it.
Well, look, can I pause for 1 second? I learned very similar to him. Because of my daughter graduated from Princeton University full scholarship. And here I am with a mother who barely graduated high school. My mother sacrificed her whole life. I was a kid who grew up in the projects. I was the one who was not supposed to be where I am, in New Jersey, in Trenton, New Jersey.
Yeah.
And so because of what I saw with my daughter and what I was able to do with her, I said to myself, why don't I now bet on myself? If I could produce a Princeton University graduate, what happens if I put that level of time and energy into myself and create my career? That's why I think for us as Gen Xers and even baby boomers to dream again and don't let corporate be the be all to end all for our lives and our careers. And that's what happens for us. That's where I say we invest so much into them, into our companies, that when it's no longer there, we go into a deep depression and we lose ourselves.
And we stay. I mean, we stay.
Like a bad marriage.
Locked in, right? Because you get to the point where you have kids and you feel like, okay, well, there's probably going to be some growth here if I just keep going. And then we kind of got to a point where like, oh, we're aging out, so it's going to be harder. You say it's time to sort of A, kind of get out of your own way and stop being afraid. But B, to, I think, how did you put it? Burn the superwoman cape and stop feeling like you have to show up and stay late. Well, you do have to show up.
Right, exactly.
That's across the board, right?
We
We all
have
agree
got
with
to
that.
show up, yes.
But that you have to be early, stay late, miss all your kids' functions, miss the date night with your husband, all those things.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what I saw in my dad. He does work 24/7, and it is a little insane, honestly. And I don't quite want that for my life. I want some work-life balance to be able to live and like do the things I want to do, which is for me, my passions, my art, my own business. But for other people, that could be being with their family, working on their health. Because I've seen a lot of older people, they get working for what? Just to not be able to use their bodies.
Right. And
So
we
that's
see
why I
people
say-
retire and then pass away.
Exactly.
Sometimes
They paid attention, contrary to popular belief. They didn't ignore and went out and did their own thing. They saw what happened to us.
Kudos.
They're watching what happens to us
Yeah.
and saying, I need to choose a different path. I don't mind going into corporate and performing, but you're not going to get blood, sweat, and tears and ask me for my firstborn. I mean, think about it. That's, for some women, that's what it was like, because we were told don't have kids.
Right, we put off having babies.
Exactly.
We do all of these things and put, hey, okay, well, I won't put in for that vacation, but I'll put in for this one, and maybe because I didn't put in for the last 3.
Right.
Y'all are like, put in for vacation. Do you even, right, well, so you two have the blessing and the gift of working for yourselves, right?
And flexibility.
Yeah. So when you hear people talking about putting in for vacation and waiting for somebody to sign off on your ability to go and enjoy life, you both are looking at me like, what is that? Did you see that? I was like, huh? Well, put in for vacation.
Right.
Those are just foreign concepts to you, right?
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah. I'm like, for gigs and things, you need to have your calendar set up correctly, but basically it's really nice being able to choose when you can
And you
have your
got
vacation.
off every holiday, right?
Yeah. Holiday.
I mean, if I want to make more money, I'll work during some holidays.
So you
know.
will. But I remember reading in your pre-interview notes, you are very much, listen, these are my hours. This is when I'm responding to emails. If the email comes at 6:07, you'll hear from me tomorrow?
Yeah, and I have my boundaries. I'll work some holidays, the ones I don't care about. But Christmas or something, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, got it.
Or, I don't know, people try to plan things so last minute too. It's like, I'll get to it, you know, we got to respect each other's boundaries and times, you know, and some
You said that part.
Yeah.
Is that something that comes up a lot?
I think being respectful of like boundaries. I think for me, I'm moving away to where I get things done very efficient in the time that I'm given, to where like I don't want you to ever give out the sense you can contact me outside of those things. Now we had a conversation out of here, and I work with a lot of vendors, so it's a lot of deployments and processes and stuff. So there's an escalation. It's usually in consulting, you're just connecting someone to the person who needs to be getting it fixed. I'm not having to jump in for hours and hours on a project, even though I'm in tech. So if I get an email at 6 or 7 about a phone call needs to be done, I go ahead and take the phone call so the next person can start working on their job, and it makes it easier.
Keep the workflow
So
going.
when no one has to micromanage, how is this going? I want to be able to report back or say something like, I've already got that handled. You don't have to check in on me. So kind of managing your managers from that point, a bit just being like self-sustained in the work that I do. It makes my job a lot easier and allows me to be flexible in my business because I'm handling everything I got to do in my professional life.
I like it. What kind of advice do you give this generation in terms of that long-term building a retirement, building the wealth, right? And learning how to invest in ways, especially with health benefits. Like you pay for your own health insurance?
I sure do.
That's very expensive, I
Yeah,
imagine.
it's very difficult. The health insurance, the taxes, those are things you're going to have to be on top of.
Right, because if you, Uncle Sam will be on top of that account if you're not, right?
Yeah, you'll be screwed over.
Other lessons that you have learned about sort of charting your own course?
I guess to the point of like beating down your body for the work that you do. Like I'm very conscious of my health. I take care of myself, make sure to prioritize that like before I ever go into work. I never want to be one of those people, and that's why I love like I guess the work that I do, to where like an alarm clock goes off and my immediate thought is rush and get dressed, put on someone else's uniform and rush to their office basically. And then when I'm sitting in rush hour traffic, I'm thinking I got an hour or two drive home. I'm stressed out. I'm probably gonna make a bad eating choice because I'm stressed out. But I really
Never
just,
have to
you
think,
know,
never. That
Never.
is beautiful. Like
So-
seriously, congratulations.
Right.
That is so important. So how is the workforce still maintaining this model of those of us who are like, you know, still sort of churning, happily so, let me be very clear, right? But still kind of churning in this model of where it's under somebody else's terms versus a workforce now that's coming up where they're all very much like, I'm gonna create my own lane.
Well, as you can imagine, the struggle is real in the workplace because you have the old regime and then the new regime, and they're bumping heads. That's what's keeping me as busy as I am. So to get everybody to the table and say, let's talk about what is and is not practical and in the best interest of the business and in the best interest of the client, and make it make sense.
So, sorry, go ahead.
Because oftentimes what I find that's happening is that sometimes for Gen Xers and baby boomers, we just do it because that's what we've always done.
Right.
And it may not make sense any longer for us to continue along that path. But then at the same time, we don't want to hear from the young people because how dare you come in with an opinion? Be happy we let you into the room and having a seat at the table.
Yeah, it's difficult working sometimes with the older generation.
How so? Tell me more. And what can we do differently? And then we want the same. We want the same license.
Well,
Go
I'll
ahead.
give an example. I was working with an artist planning an event, and it was my job to plan the event. And I was talking to the event venue manager, and I was asking him questions as an event planner does.
Right, doing your
and
job.
his critique was to the artist is that I shouldn't talk so much. Yeah, and that really took me aback. I'm like, I was younger than I am now, and I guess he thought that I wasn't really in the position I should have been. And I did quit, and I found a better job.
Okay.
But I didn't know how to really deal with that. To me, I felt disrespected, and maybe because I look younger, not young enough to do that job.
Right. I got you. Okay.
Yeah, I think for me, being in leadership like at a young age, I got the question a lot of times of not being looked at like I should be in that position really. So when someone's like, can you go get the manager? I'm like, well, I am the manager. Who else do you want to talk to besides me? And then taking those skills and I think moving to other positions where like now I'm one of the youngest people on a lot of teams that I work with, moving in a way that feels authentic to me still demanding a level of respect at my young age because again, we're on the same team for a reason.
Right.
You don't get to look down on me because I'm younger. I think that's the mentality that this generation has.
Gotcha. And
versus
Krishna,
the
I
other
want you
one.
to weigh in here. I want to hear from the two of you too, because there's still this concept of respect, right?
Right.
So there's still the first name versus Mr. or Mrs. And like, how do you all maneuver that? Because I think we still get, if a 20-something calls, it took a minute for me to get used to somebody calling me Portia. When we're used to that level of auntie respect that we had in the workforce. But are you all first name basis, even no matter how old the person is?
Yeah, I would say back in high school, we could call some of our teachers by their first names.
Which still blows my mind. For the record, don't you call your high school teacher by the first name? I guess unless they're younger and that's what they're saying.
Kids only do that if they tell you to. Yeah.
Right, yes, exactly. So how do you manage that? Because I know you want to be respected, but we do too for what we still bring to the table. So what does that conversation look like?
So what I remind my young professionals is that for us, oftentimes respect looks like, do you see me and the sacrifice that I made in order for you to be in the position that you are in? A lot of times they feel dismissed or you're ready to kick me out versus I appreciate the work that you've done and that you're still here to share information and help me to develop my career. And I also remind, on the other hand, leaders to not tell young professionals, treat me like you would treat your mother, because that doesn't work. It depends on, again, that familial relationship. The way some people speak to their mother may not work for you as a leader. And so you have to understand what that looks like. And also reminding them to, instead of basing a young professional off of their age, you need to base them in off of their skill set and respect their title. A lot of times we just go, well, they're young enough to be my grandchild, but they're still your manager, they're still your coworker. You need to treat them as such. So the respect thing is a two-way street. And a lot of times people say, well, when I was in the workplace, I didn't get that, but it didn't make it right then. So what makes it right now? We remember that trauma like it was yesterday. So let's go ahead and do different for this new generation of leaders that have come into the workplace.
I want to talk just briefly before we wrap up about this concept of knowing your worth. Because I think it's safe to say you all truly recognize your worth. And negotiating is just second nature for you. Like, no, I'm not taking the first number. No, you know what, here's my starting price. If that doesn't work for you, let me refer you to somebody with who's more in your budget, where we were like, all right, what's your budget? How can we make this work? So the lessons for us about knowing your worth.
I would say being in business and like entrepreneurship, I've always like kind of looked at what value I provide. What are the hours? What are the experience that I'm giving you? Because I'm showing up in my business like you're not just hiring me, now you're hiring my company. So I think that mindset in my business has allowed me to think forward about my goals. Like I have a dream home that I want to own. I have a dream car I want to drive. I have kids I want to take care of. I have savings accounts I want to go into. So the number that I'm going to give you not only just pertains to what my need is right now currently, but something thinking forward down my future as well. I got more equipment I want to buy. So all that stuff goes into the number that I give you on top of the professional individual that shows up to actually do the job and the money.
Knowing your worth.
Yeah, know your worth. Know the worth of your health, the worth of your family, the worth that you want to bring to this world. It's not only in your career. I think in this time of our life, we're like career, but there's also so many things that make up who you are. And remember that when you're taking this job, will it deplete from your overall wellness? You know, and sometimes you might have to take the sacrifice, but maybe there's a teammate that you can rely on to help you out if you're running a little late or something goes on. So having that support system who also knows your worth.
Gotcha. Krishna, for women in particular who struggle with, I know my worth in the mirror, but when it's time to show up and negotiate a new salary or negotiate a new contract and get the money you're worth, what do you tell women in particular to focus on?
One, practice with each other before you go ahead and have that conversation. So practice that conversation with that difficult leader in advance of having that conversation. Think about the obstacles that they're going to come up with and be ready to address those. Also be ready to share the value that you have brought over time to justify the salary versus saying, I know what so-and-so makes.
Right. Never say that.
that.
Right. Can we just say for the record, stop saying you know what Ted makes.
Right.
Ted's making what Ted is making. We're here to talk about what you are making.
Exactly.
Right? Especially when you're asking for more money. You've been there for a minute, right? How important is it to be able to say, here is what I have produced, and here's what more you're going to get?
Right.
Because it's not just asking for money just because I've been here.
Exactly.
It's what else you're going to get from me, right?
Right. And that's really the truth of the matter. A lot of times we forget and just go, well, because I've been here, you know what I can do. No, I need you to put it in black and white to make it real plain.
Because odds are there's about to be some younger person who can do it
Exactly.
for less,
Right.
and then it's going to fast track.
Right. And if you need additional talking points or support, go to human resources and find out from them what are leaders looking for when it comes to giving those increases, especially substantial increases that you're asking for. Your HR person can then have a conversation with you and let you know what's going on in the organization.
Let's talk about quitting etiquette. Because let's be honest now.
Yeah.
Y'all will quit and be like, I'm done. I don't like this. This is not meeting my needs. I'm quitting. This is not a 2-week notice. I'm out today, right? You know some folks who have either of you done that?
I've never done that.
But you know some folks who
I've got
have?
friends who, like mid-shift, I got a new job, tell them I'm not coming back, I'm on break.
That's
And
crazy.
that's
crazy to me.
I think a lot of people treat their 9 to 5 as their like side hustle in a sense, and then they're trying to build something else, so they don't really care about that 9 to 5.
But is that fair to the folks from the 9 to 5 who made an investment in the employee to say, yeah, I want you to be in this because I see something in you?
I'm not sure how much training they're giving people. So you get on the job. I don't know how much they're actually investing in people.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
I'm seeing that if you give young professionals something to be loyal to, they will.
Something to
They
look
will.
forward to.
They
Gotcha.
have to be able to see, why should I be loyal to you to even give you 2 weeks notice? What have you given to me other than making me stay late, come in early? What more is there? What kind of relationship do I have with you as a leader for me to say, even with the organization, I'm going to stay for Portia and give Portia as my manager 3 weeks notice because she's always treated me well versus, well, my manager has treated me any old kind of way. And you're right. I've seen people leave mid-shift, like leave the keys on the desk and walk out. No resignation, just gone. You
I'm
just
out.
don't see them come back from lunch.
Yeah. So what is the, how and I know it varies from industry to industry. Is there still some basic protocol though for getting the job and leaving the job, right? I mean, are we still showing up for job interviews in suits? Are we still saying?
Yeah, no, not so much.
Oh, all these
showing up.
groans.
Now,
Okay, we go. Okay.
Let me.
Yeah.
I'll fill in some blanks here. For example, I think that there is a level of professionalism when leaving a job because you never know how that door can open for you again. I've seen people leave a job and have to come back to the same job and have to almost beg for that same job back because of the way they left it the first time. I had a friend who probably left the same job 3 times.
Don't burn a bridge.
And he's never, but he's been in good standing, of course, but he's got friends who need relationships. He'd be like, okay, cool, you went through a hard time. I think that giving a 2 weeks notice, I feel like it's prompt, but to your point though, of having been that quote unquote favorite manager, I may not be the person that they should be giving it to. They come to me to talk about it and be like, should I not? And they want to understand how are they being valued, basically. And sometimes it's that person who there's another person outside of your boss who's keeping you in the door for a little bit longer ride on.
Exactly.
And we notice when one person who's important leaves a company, their people leave with
The
them.
structure.
Yeah, everybody goes because, that person's no longer with them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Anybody else? Because there was a whole lot of
Well,
shifting and grunting.
From a human resources perspective, we are having challenges with the way people present themselves for interviews and the way they're coming in.
So just quickly, just fire off a couple of do not
come into the office or come into an interview with pajama pants on and a t-shirt.
You've not seen that.
I have seen
You've
that.
not heard somebody say somebody
Yes.
came to an interview with
Do
pajama
not
pants.
come into an interview with your mom or your dad.
You have not seen a grown man or woman come in.
Yes.
Okay. What else should you not?
The other thing you should not do is when you get a review that you're unhappy with, have your mom and dad call your manager on your behalf.
That's
And your mom calls upset because my child got to meet expectations and not exceeds, and we need to talk about it.
Where they do that? Okay, go ahead. What you were?
I was gonna say the thing about TikTok nowadays, the office siren outfits.
What that?
So that's like when you're dressing a little too cute for work.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's a big one. Everyone wants to like show their individuality, which I think is totally fine.
But you don't have to show everything
Yeah.
about your individuality.
Like you can dye your hair, wear your earrings, wear your color, because I feel like we get so stuck in like black a lot or just basic stuff. It'd be nice to see more color and fun, but not necessarily too much, like you said.
Right.
Yeah, to an interview. I'd say to an interview, keep it classy, and then we'll see where you work at. It kind of depends.
Gotcha, gotcha. And that's true for corporate versus a gig economy as well for all of you?
Exactly, because even the clients you support through a gig economy, some of them are more conservative. So you need to know what that looks like and how you would be perceived if you walk in with 5-inch stilettos on and that's not a stiletto environment. You need to know that.
Do your research, I would say.
That's important. That's good.
Especially in gig economy, because you might not know when you're going to see the client again, or just in general, you might want to look good in general.
That first impression is still, no matter how old we are, how much experience we do or don't have, that first impression is still always the most important one.
Yeah,
That's going to be the return call.
I hear oftentimes people say, well, Krishna, it's not fair. I should be able to dress the way I want to. But as I remind them, whoever writes the checks get to make the rules.
Right.
And if their rule is that I don't want tattoos and you have to cover up your tattoos, that's what you have to do.
Okay, one more. I know I keep saying we're almost done, but because I'm just thinking of things that I have heard about when people are criticized, and it's a critique, not a criticism, not a character judgment, but on the job, hey, listen, I need you to do, I am not used to somebody talking to me like this. You cannot say this to me. Do you know who how do you, and I'm going to come to you, but how do you tell other young folks who are not used to somebody telling them that this was not how this was supposed to be done, not to pop off? Because I feel like there's a lot of popping off.
Really? I mean, I believe it. I don't have friends like that.
Okay, very good, very good. But if there was somebody who was like, no, you can't just talk to me any type of way, how do you help? What do you say to folks about learning how to accept criticism, no matter who the manager is, whether they're older or younger?
It's a hard one.
There's a level of grace within that. I'll speak on the appearance part. I remember about 4 or 5 years ago working in the industry, and I had a young black man come to me and tell me like, I need to pick out my afro. He was like, your hair is like, who let you walk up in here with your hair looking like that? I'm like,
because you had just a very natural
fro,
yeah.
you know, at that point in time, and it offended me quite a little bit. And then I got to thinking, well, who am I? You're the only other person of color in here. Who am I going to go and talk to about this and how it makes me feel, basically? We had a conversation afterwards and kind of got the air cleared up. But as it relates to other young men and being professional in their appearance, keep your hair, especially like locks, just keep them groomed. You know what I'm saying? If you're, especially like a corporate
Did you pick out your afro?
I did not pick out my afro.
Did you trim it up?
Nope.
So you left it as is?
Yeah.
But now you tell people.
I'm telling you, your locks or your professional appearance does have a first impression on some people. So if I see a young man that I may meet and his hair is just like, you got locks, but they're like right here.
But they're right.
And your eyes, just pull them back. It makes you no different. It doesn't change anything, but it may change someone's perspective when they approach you and how they may even interact with you. If your hair is just in your eyes, you're trying to look through.
Right, because eye contact is important no matter what.
So.
Okay, last word on how to.
Well, you were talking about popping off. And so for those young professionals, when they do that, I ask them, and I just had a coaching conversation with a young woman where I asked her, because she was popping off at work, what is it that you're hearing her say to you? What is it that you find so challenging about her saying, I need you to do these things that make you go far left? And then she's like, everybody's looking at me like I'm crazy. And I said, well, and then we talked about, okay, let's talk about what has happened at other jobs. And then I shared with her and said, who's the common denominator in these scenarios? Because the job has changed, the people have changed, but you remain the same.
You still popping up.
Yes, so we need to look at what you need to do differently. You may need a coach, you may need a therapist to help you reframe the conversations and what it is that you're hearing. Because sometimes it goes back to our childhood, or if you're from the streets and the hood and you can't say this to me this kind of way, it could be just one word that you don't realize is a trigger for you.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
So-
Listen, I could keep going and keep going and keep going, but here's what I want you to do. Tell people where they can find you on social media, your services, your coaching, and allow people to engage you there.
Well, you can find me, Krishna Powell, at krishnapowell.com.
Okay.
Yeah. Tacorry Thomas on pretty much all platforms. My business is CamWorks Media. CamWorks with a Z instead of an S.
Okay.
All right, and you can find me at Kofo Queen, COFO Queen.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Great conversation. Great episode and a great podcast. Thank you so much. I appreciate, and I really want to salute the two of you in particular for being really great models of what that we can all learn from. And I want to salute you for making sure all of us understand how important it is to know your worth.
My pleasure.
Yes,
Thank you for
indeed.
having us.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Portia Raw and Real. We surely appreciate it. We'll see you next time on Portia.